normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
From the Daily Mail, woke Disney admits misalignment between its movies and what viewers want is harming its bottom line after progressive Snow White reboot was pushed back for huge overhaul. I love the financial, legal, academic way of saying get woke, go broke.
Yeah, exactly.
We're misaligned. Okay, we have a phrase for that. Here's the gist of it. Disney has warned its investors that the company's products and political views may not align with what viewers want and risk harming its bottom line. In a public financial filing for the fiscal quarter ending in September, the corporation acknowledged the risks it is taking relating to misalignment with public and consumer tastes and preferences for entertainment. That's amazing. Disney has struggled as of late to successfully pitch its costly films to audiences, losing a reported $1 billion on its last 4 high-profile releases. And I don't know if I actually have, yes, I do have it pulled up, of course. Disney's Wish over Thanksgiving weekend was another major box office bomb. And I think everybody knows that movie's basically communist, right? Is that the general idea? Are you familiar with it, Jeremy?
Yeah. Basically, if there really was a God and if he was any good, he'd give us all everything we want.
Yeah, but only in this movie, it's a white man who has the power to grant everything you want and refuses. And
God, he's a white dude.
He's a white dude. All right. Yeah.
It's a documentary.
That's what it is.
It's a documentary.
Yeah. So the big news here is they pushed back Snow White, which shows not only are they admitting to their investors what we are doing is failing, they're taking corrective measures.
Well, obviously, the entire sort of Team Reality right marshaled a lot of strength against, well, first with Bud Light, which I think is the greatest boycott that we've ever seen in the history of the right. I mean, we've never been very good at that sort of taking economic action, punitive economic action against anyone. And after Dylan Mulvaney, they laid the Bud Light low. But now with Disney, you saw the entire right wing really come out against them. And Daily Wire, I'm proud to say we took direct action. And on the 100th anniversary of Disney, back on October 16th, we announced the launch of our kids platform, Bent Key, which is, of all the things we've ever built, this thing I'm the most proud of. We've got 18 series on there, 4 of them original, 2 of those, Chip Chilla, our first animated series, and A Wonderful Day with Mabel McClay, I think are both genuinely wonderful shows. I'm very proud to have played a role in bringing them to life. But we also announced that we were going to make our own live-action adaptation of the Grimm's fairy tale, Snow White. And we were doing that in particular because Rachel Ziegler had been, the Disney's new Snow White, had been so outspokenly against Snow White, the film that made Disney into the powerhouse that it is, the 1937 animated film. And she said things like, we're not going to make a movie like that. That movie had all kinds of problems. We're not going to make a movie where the prince saves the princess or any of this stuff. What's beautiful about that, well, what's awful about it, obviously, is that she's saying that the actual company for whom she works, a company with the most brand loyalty of any company maybe in all of history, is somehow poorly founded, somehow had bad values, and she's far, far better of a person than Walt Disney was. But what's beautiful now is, if you look at what Disney's going to do with the film, you said it, almost less than 2 weeks later, they completely changed course on their adaptation. They are now going to make a more faithful adaptation, and Rachel Ziegler has to actually be in the movie that she hates.
Yes. I'm just imagining this when you're talking about this, you're making the Snow White. I'm imagining that you're driving this little buggy behind these semis that are gold is pouring off the back, and you're just picking it up and you're like, well, whatever, I might as well take this. Oh, they threw that out. I'll take this one too. If they want to abandon their most valuable IP and the things that made them valuable, I see in so many ways with like Jeremy's razors, for instance, and Jeremy's chocolate. You're like, well, if you don't want it, I guess I'll take it.
Yeah.
And now here's the Daily Wire exploding in popularity because they're just giving away this value, abandoning it.
I mean, I'm just a lowly shampoo mogul, but I came by it honest. If they don't want the business, to your point, we're going to make the business. And someone asked me, what will you do if Disney manages to course correct here? First of all, I don't think they can. I don't think that Disney, I think they know that something is amiss. I don't think that they can identify the difference between the parts of their views that are so radical that the public is rejecting them and the parts of their views that aren't. Because they live in a bubble within a bubble within a bubble within a bubble. People who've worked for Disney have told us, Disney has basically fired everyone over the last 5 to 7 years who didn't toe that party line. There's no one left over there who would know how to do this if they were paid to. But if they do manage to course correct, and if it costs me my business, I'll be like Elliot Ness at the end of The Untouchables. I'll go have a drink. Like
We won.
We won. It would be far better for our culture. It'd be far better for Western civilization for Disney to become Disney again than it would be for Bentkey to spend the next 100 years becoming Disney.
Yeah. Yeah, the way I see it is, if I woke up tomorrow and Disney was making good family-friendly content, crime was going way down, the Democrats apologized to Trump, all of these things turned around, I wouldn't know what to even do. I'd probably just sitting here talking about UFOs or something, and then I'd go skateboarding, and I'd be like, I don't need to do anything.
Well, those would be good shows too.
I would just sit at home with my thousands and thousands and thousands of unsold bottles of shampoo.
What are you gonna do?
I would smell great and have nothing to do.
I feel like, yeah, the way you describe it is, I'd probably much rather have solved these problems and then retire off into the sunset and relax and hang out, get a nice brick oven, grill some burgers and hang out with your friends and have a beer. But instead, I wake up every day and I am deeply concerned about what's going to happen in this country should we decide to walk away from the culture war.
Can I take a minute to talk about Mary Poppins, my favorite movie of all time, and something I wanted my children to see, one of the first movies they saw, and how Disney now is the product or the victim of rotten creativity. They've killed ingenuity, and I think of what Walt did with Mary Poppins and the way he built the animatronic birds and all these beautiful things. And the meaning of that first movie, the original one, is about a guy who loses his job. He's having a hard time at home. The kids are missing his dad. Then he got to bring the family together through the beauty of imagination. And then after all that, he gets his job back, right? In the new Mary Poppins that they remade, or it's like the second one, it was my first hint at Disney inverting those like meanings that are deep, important to me, because I went to go see it without my kids because I want to check it out first. And I also love Mary Poppins because it's
crazy. You
didn't want to cry in front of them.
I didn't want to cry. I cried because it was so bad, because they inverted the meaning in the end. In the end, the father gets his job back. He's happy and then finds value in imagination with his children.
That's totally different.
Which is completely opposite of how it should be.
Yeah.
So that was for me when I first started to realize this is just rotten from the core.
It is Disney. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can fact check me and check this out real time. When was the sale of Marvel to Disney?
Not that long ago, right?
Right. It was within a few years.
It was in 2009.
2009 is when that happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
they bought Marvel
years.
for $4 million.
$4 billion.
Billion.
Yeah, sorry.
So then my point was incorrect. So I'll set that one aside. When I look at
don't let that stop you.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Anyway.
I was going to make a point, but I wanted to make sure I was correct in my timeline. But I believe my timeline was wrong. My point I was going to make was where Disney is now with the Marvel movies versus where they were with the original Marvel movies.
Right.
So the comparison I like to make often is Captain America versus Captain Marvel, and why Captain Marvel bombs. I mean, the first one I think did decent,
right,
and then the last one was their worst ever. And why Captain America helped create the MCU and this big movie empire. Captain America is a scrawny, weak man who desperately wants to fight for his country, so much so that he's trying to lie to trick his way into the army. And then they have that scene where it's Jack Nicholson's character. Oh no, it's Tommy Lee, not Jack Nicholson. He's like, I don't want this scrawny guy. I want strong guys, and he throws the fake grenade. And then it's the scrawny, weak Steve Rogers who jumps on the grenade to save everybody else. Amazing scene. What is the ending of Captain Marvel? She was a woman who always had the power, but a man was keeping her down and kept telling her to check her emotions. It's a caricature of what feminists think being a woman is.
Well, that's what happened in Snow White as well. And you had Rachel Ziegler talking repeatedly about how the new story was going to be about how Snow White became a powerful figure just like her father always wanted. And I remember she said that, and I was like, oh, we're going to cover this for Post Millennial. Let me dig back and see what happened. That's not in the Grimm's fairy tale. It's not in the original Snow White.
Fierce, fair, brave, and true, I think is what she said.
But she also was talking about the father and doing all this stuff, and the father doesn't appear anywhere. But the other thing, too, is that basically what Disney did was give Snow White the Wicked Queen's plot. The Wicked Queen is the one who goes after power. She's the one who is driven by avarice and jealousy. Whoa. And they gave that to Snow White. They made 2 villains in that story. They obliterated the heroine, and they told little girls love and kindness and caring for other people. Wow. That's not what you should strive after. What you should strive after is to be, a bitchy, evil queen.
Right.
A girl boss.
A girl boss.
A girl boss.
And everybody knows that after we see them all on TikTok, those girl bosses, they're miserable.
Also, beauty. Let's don't leave out beauty. Snow White is fundamentally about beauty. And one of the things that's challenging, one of the things Ziegler said is, it's not 1939 anymore. And it's true. Snow White wasn't written in 1939. It's an ancient fairy tale. It was preserved by the Brothers Grimm, but it probably goes back hundreds of years, even before the Grimm writing. And what is it about? What is the sort of timeless truth that allowed that story to be older than our country? Much, much older than our country. And I think that what the fairy tale is actually about is something that it's so foreign to us because we live in a world where we can't talk about reality at all. And we haven't been able to talk about reality forever. But there is in the original writing, it's not even a stepmother. It's actually her mother.
Oh, wow.
And even the Grimm version changed that between their original publication and their later publications because it just felt too harsh. But the ancient fairy tale is the mother. And what the story is about is the very common phenomenon that every parent feels, that over time your children replace you. And so the mother gained notoriety or attention or security through her beauty. And now her daughter possesses more beauty than she. And, if you have a son, I don't, but if you're the father of a son, it's a very common thing that people don't talk much about. When your son brings home the beautiful girl for prom when he's 17, the father feels some pride, sure, but he also feels some despair because until now, he's been the one that women look to. And now the son is. And it's a common tragedy in life, but it's a beautiful tragedy that over time our children replace us. And in our generation where we live now, we won't even have kids for fear of missing out on any piece of life. The idea that we could be replaced by our kids, that part of our job is to take all of our, not values, although that too, but our value and impart that value into the future by creating replacements for ourselves. That's what Snow White is about.
I just got to say, I don't have kids, but to anybody who has that feeling, when your son finally beats you at basketball or football, that should be one of the greatest moments of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is you winning. That is you winning right now. Right. And when you see your kids succeed, that is you succeeding. Your whole
really
mission.
Is. The other thing, too, that happens when you have kids, at a certain point in your life, there's more life behind you than there is ahead of you. And you can get lost in memories and looking back. But if you have a child, then you can see so far into the future. It's absolutely spectacular. You can think about their future and their children's future. Yep. My son is already tired of me saying, don't forget to give mommy some grandbabies.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.